Hey there. I was recently asked to speak on the topic of how do you build a sales funnel. And it got me thinking about working with my clients and clients in general about their sales process. And when people talk about a sales funnel, what they're really talking about are the steps that people need to go through to move from maybe you're getting their attention to interest to desire to actually taking action and actually buying whatever it is, whatever product or service that you're selling. So so here are five things that I see or that people do wrong, that they mess up in a sales process or a sales funnel, however you want to define it. It's really the same thing. So the first one is not having a sales process, just going out and selling. And that may work for a very limited number of people. I'd probably say less than 0.1% of people can actually make that work, or at least perform at the highest level, just going out and selling. It just doesn't work for most people, and it certainly doesn't work for newer salespeople or people who are so. What is your sales process? What is your funnel? So the way you build that out is, you get a lead, and then what do you do with it? Like, what's step one? So step one might be book the appointment. Step two might be send them some information on, that's relevant to them. Step three might be get them to fill out a questionnaire. Step four might be to send them some more information. Step five, once you get the questionnaire back, step five might be to have a call with them. Step six might be, and so on until you get down to make the sale and send a gift or a thank you card or whatever it is you do. Or if you don't get the sale, still send a card. So that's the first mistake, is not having a sales process. The second mistake I have is not having enough steps in the process. So in other words, the process is you get a call, you go see them, and you try to sell them. Well, if there are not enough steps in the process, then you can't prepare the person to buy from you. They don't know. I mean, people want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. So you can't move them from, you've got their attention. Now they have some interest. Now they have desire. Now they want to buy. You can't, in most cases, it takes a little bit of time, because guess what? You have to build trust. If you don't have trust, then you can't build the process. So the second thing is build in enough steps and enough, make sure that you hit on all the modalities. Make sure they have something that they can do. Make sure that they have something they can watch. Make sure they have something they can listen to, so you can hit all the modalities. So not having enough steps in the process is the second big mistake I make. The third biggest mistake I say is, once you have enough steps, not testing and measuring and improving on those steps. So you need to measure your conversion rate all the way through the process. So lead to appointment. So you get a lead. How many of those turn into appointments? What percentage? From the appointment, how many return the questionnaire? So there's a good step to test and measure right there, because if maybe they need a phone, maybe if you add a phone call, add another step in before that and explain to them why it's important for them to get that questionnaire back to you, why they would want to do it. And this works for B2C, B2B. It works as business to consumer and business to business. It works for everybody. Some sales processes are super short. They still have a ton of steps in them. Some are longer. So, but not having enough steps is generally something that I see as the second one. And the third one is not measuring the conversion rate through the whole process. So you'll have an overall conversion rate from lead to sale, but you'll also have conversion rates along the way, and you can figure out which part of your sales process is breaking down. So the fourth one that I see often is not using scripts, not using artifacts, not using the process. So if you have a process, what good it is if you're not going to use it and you don't get your team to use it. So insist that the process be done. Now, I have a saying that once you understand the context of the process, then you can, modify the content to fit your personality. Of course, a script should be modified for you. But you first must get the content right, and then once you understand the context, then you're allowed to make modifications, not change it completely, but you could change some languaging to make it sound more like you. So once you've got a sales process that works, you want to continue using it. So the fourth thing I see is not using scripts or artifacts or the process at all. And the fifth thing I say is maybe it's the same as not using the process, but winging it. People just wing it. They just get out there and they're like, oh, I don't need this process. I don't need this. I'll just wing it. So that's a recipe for disaster. You want to create a process. You want to measure and test the process. You want to make sure it's robust, and you want to make sure it maximizes your conversion rate. So number one, have a process. Number two, make sure it's got the correct number of steps. Number three, make sure that you're measuring the conversion rate at every step in your process. Number four, make sure that you're using the process. And number five, use the process. Stop winging it. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been useful. I can tell you a story of my friend Joe, who was he was a roofer. He came off the roof to sell for the company he worked for, and I worked with him for a number of years. And just by creating a sales process, creating the artifacts and the scripting, following the process, adding in a few steps, using the script, his conversion rate went from in the low 20%, so I say 23%, all the way to 35%. And I don't know if you understand how much that means, but that was a massive increase in the sales that he was making. He went from selling next to nothing to selling over $2 million a year for the company. In fact, he got promoted to being the sales manager of the company. He was so good by following the process. So follow the process. And until next time, all the best.